Okay, our next step after removing the suspension to start the installation is going to be removal of a small area, a 12-inch by probably 25-30 inches of sheet metal on the interior truck where the spare tire hump is. It's a very simple procedure if you'll follow the demonstration and follow the measurements as I give them to you. This view is being taken from inside the trunk area, looking in toward the back of the back seat area. If you come over the hump where the spare tire was, there's a bend, a sheet metal brake. Come 1 inch forward. Measure 1 inch forward on both ends, driver's side and passenger side. 1 inch forward. Draw a straight line all the way across one side to the next. Stop. You'll now measure 12 inches down. Make a mark 12 inches down on the left side, 12 inches down from the cut line on the passenger side. Now this will be 12 inches from your cut line, which is 1 inch from your bend line. So from the bend line, the bottom cut line will be 13 inches. From the top cut line, it will be 12 inches. Either way, same difference. Okay, with that made, come over to where you had a rubber plug on the passenger side and the driver's side, right as the pan flattens out. Remove the rubber plug. At that point, you'll measure from the back side of the hole toward the back bumper, measure straight back 6 inches. At that point, you'll draw a straight line down to the straight line that you made in the trunk for your 12-inch mark. On your 12-inch mark, you'll just run a straight line from passenger side to the driver's side. And as you're passing over the driver's side, there's a small hole. You'll come right to the very top edge of that small hole, heading toward the driver's side, come up a small hump, right straight to the frame rail where it starts, the sheet metal starts to bend back up. Stop. Do the same on this as the other side. Measure from the rubber plug hole straight back 6 inches. Make your mark down to the straight bottom cut. That'll be the side cut. So it's 1 inch from the bend straight across the top. Measure, make a line all the way to the edge of the shock hole, over to the edge. From the shock hole, measure 6.5 inches back, straight down, back across. Same on the other side. That's what it looks like from the trunk area. Now I'm going to go in the side of the car looking from the back. This shot is being taken from the inside the car. We have removed the back seat. As you can see, you'll see the 2 slotted holes where the shock bolts come up through. The bend I was talking about on making your top cut is from the shock hole. You'll see the bend, it goes down. At that point, measure there, straight back on both sides. Make the straight line 1 inch. Which actually, what we're trying to do is leave that lip there and cut these humps out of it. That's what we're trying to get rid of, guys. These humps right here. Getting these out of the way, squaring everything up, where our sheet metal just come straight here, over, straight back. Okay? Alright, we'll proceed now under the car. Okay, we're now under the car, showing what it looks like with all the suspension removed. Shocks, rear end housings, springs, brake lines out of the way. Everything's totally removed. We removed the gas tank, of course. We do not want to get sparks from the gas tank from our cutting of the trunk panel. This shot is being taken before the trunk panel has been trimmed out. I've got a line here showing you the actual bottom cut from the inside the trunk that we discussed earlier with the pictures in there. Here is the hole showing coming right across the top of the inside on the driver's side. We showed you from the inside view. This would be our bottom cut. What we're trying to do, this is 1 inch in front of our gas tank strap holder. which holds our gas tank straps, which maintains our gas tank. We do not want to trim this out, so this is why you follow the instructions as I tell you from the top cut and the bottom cut. We'll be maintaining this. That'll be our bottom cut. Straight back up 6 inches from the back of the hole, back up. And there's our 1-inch lip on the top side. This is just a bottom side view of what we viewed from the inside. That's all this is. Verifying the way it's going to be. Okay. With that general view taken, our next step is going to be to get the pieces, get them in place in the car, and then we'll show you the installation of the actual rear end housing. It's the coilover spring and suspension kit. Okay, this is looking up from the bottom of the car after we trim the floor panel out. This is what we're talking about, guys. There's a 1-inch lip right here. Lip. Back down, right straight across, 1 inch in front of the gas tank strap. This is the pan that was removed and was removed with this soft plasma. And here's the view from inside the trunk. We cut along the ridge, straight back our 6 inches from the shock hole, from the rubber plug hole, down to our cut line, which was 12 inches back, straight across, up to 6 inches back from the hole on the passenger side, back up to our 1-inch lip. That's what it'll look like from the inside, guys. That's what your cut is going to look like. Now that we have the panels cut out of the trunk area, this is the 2 panels you will receive. The panels to cover the pan that you cut out of the trunk will come in 2 pieces. A top piece, which is shown here on the top, and a back piece, which is shown here on the bottom. I will now take these inside, put them in the trunk, and show you how to install them. I'm personally going to weld these in. You can either weld them in, or you can go to an automotive parts supply house that supplies automotive paint and get an epoxy to glue them in, which is actually as strong or stronger than steel. So there's actually 2 ways to get these things in. But anyway, we're going to weld them in. I'll show you that now. Okay, we're in the trunk now. I've taken the top pan and I've laid it in our opening. As you can see, it fits in only one place. The corners will locate it. It goes all the way back against the ridge in the rear. At this point, what I do, I take an 1/8" drill, be it in a drill motor, and I drill locating holes on either side to hold it in place. And what I use to hold it in place is what we call a Cleco pin set. You have an 1/8" Cleco pin and a plier. You'll squeeze it with the plier, it goes in the hole and holds it in place in tension. That helps hold everything in place while you align it. Then I'll make my marks where I have it in line to where I need to clean and grind for my weld, or either my substrate for gluing it down with the epoxy. You can do it either way, but we're all going to weld, so we will need to clean this area with grinding. And so knowing where to do that, I will Cleco this in place. As you can see, our pans are now Clecoed in place. They're pinned in place. What I'll do now is I'll just take my Sharpie and I'll trace along the edge. You can either do this with a Sharpie or a piece of soap stone, but just trace along the edge of the panels all the way around, and that'll give you an area to where you need to grind and clean. That'll tell you exactly where that pan is going to sit when you put it back in. Alright, let's do that. Okay, panel's been removed. Area around the panel has been cleaned. I've pinned it back in place. and you can weld it now. And what I'm going to do, and what I would advise you to do at this point, is before you weld it, if you're going to weld it or if you're going to glue it, take and put some weld-on primer over the bare areas. That way it'll let your welder weld through it, yet you'll have your primer protection. Now we will weld it. Okay, we now have the pan welded in, finished ground, ready for seam sealer and primer. Okay, we're looking at the RC114 rear coilover package here for the 64 Fairlane. Basically, it's shaped the same as the Mustangs and the Falcons, just a few similarities in it. They'll all be the same, but this is what you'll get in the package. Whenever you get your kit, open it up, lay all your parts out like this. You have an instruction DVD. You have written text drawings. We have a 1-800 number you can call us on. Guys, this stuff's not hard. But this is what it looks like. Unbox it, lay it out, inventory it, and then we'll start the installation procedure from here. Okay, now that our pan's welded in, we have our kit unboxed, we have our pieces laid out, we've inventoried them. Now we're going to start the installation process. We've already removed our old suspension as we had stated earlier. And the first thing you want to start with your new lower arm support pieces you purchased. They're bolt on where you originally, your OEM, your stock bolted on. You unbolt those, throw those away, and you'll bolt our new pieces on. Now, there's going to be some drilling to do. As we can see, we've already drilled our frame. What we're going to do here, we're going to show you how to lay it out and where to drill. We're going to assume you already know how to use a drill and a drill bit. So we've already done this, but we will show you how to install it and how to lay it out. Okay, now we have the front spring purchase replaced with our lower trailing link purse with the direct bolt on. As we said, it's in place. You'll use your 7/16 grade 8 washer and your 7/16 lock washer with your 7/16 bolt provided in the kit. There'll be 8 of each. Alright, next we're going to install our upper bar with the attachments for our trailing links that go to the top of our housing. This is our adjusting bars for setting our pinion angle. This is our 2 triangulated upper links. This bar is going to be installed next. Okay, now we've got the bar in place, and all you got to do is slide it between the frame rails where it fits. Slide the flat bar all the way back against the existing brace that runs between your frame rails on both sides. Just butt it up, make your mark in your holes for your drill, take it back down and drill your holes. We'll do that now. Okay, we have our front upper adjusting bar brace bolted in and finished. Now we're going to put the upper coilover mount bar in, and as you can see, I've just got it held up in here in place. All you do, you take this bar, fit it between the rails, take your tape measure, measure from the back side of the shock brace, measure 8 3/4 inches from the brace. Put your tape measure 8 3/4 straight back. That's the center line of your shock bar. Measure the same thing on both sides. Put the center line of the shock bar there. Clamp it in, slide it as far as it go upwards against the top of the frame rail. Clamp it in place and drill your holes. We'll do that procedure next. Alright, we've drilled the holes for the coilover upper mount bolts. Guys, a little tip. You need to keep this plate face straight with the back of your shock tower, your original shock tower brace. Measure 6 1/8 inches to the very bottom of the plate, 6 1/8 inches to the top of the plate. Keep this plate square. What we're trying to do is keep this in the correct relation it needs to be. With the car sitting level, these brackets should be sitting level, 0 degrees. Okay guys, with that bar bolted in place and finished, now I've clamped the sway bar bracket bar in. Now you'll want this, I'm standing up under the middle of the car, you'll want the inside leg to turn toward the inside of the car, the leg to turn inside the car. What I'm doing, this frame rail runs down at an angle as you can see. What I'll do on the back side of the angle, I mark 1 inch from the bottom up, and on the front side, I mark 1.5 inches. Draw a straight line, set it on my frame rail, and that gives me the angle I want against the frame rail. This measurement from the back of the old shock mount, measure straight back. That measurement will be 11.5 inches to the front side. From the front side to the back side of the old shock brace. 11.5 inches. 1.5 inches down in the front, 1 inch down in the rear. Now you can mark it and drill it, or you can weld it, as you can any of these bars. Most of the time we weld it. We're drilling these to show you this, how it's done, but most of the time we'll weld it since it's absolutely faster. The sway bar bracket, we're going to weld this particular one. If you were going to do the sway bar bracket, what I would suggest doing if you were going to bolt it in is mount it to the outside of the rail to start with. Make your mark, drill it from the outside. As you can see, the floor pan kind of gets in the way here. Drill it from the outside. It just takes a little longer, so we're going to weld this particular piece in. We get it in, we'll be finished under the car, and then we'll move on to the housing. Okay, now we're ready to move on to the housing. I'm going to put the housing brackets with the U-bolts on the housing to mount the coilovers and the sway bar to. Okay, on this particular housing, we bought a brand new housing, and so when it came to us, it's a manufactured housing, brand new, end to end. We can provide these also if you'd like. But when we do these, we do what we call a weld-on mount. If you're using your existing 8-inch or 9-inch housing, you would just remove your housing out from under the car. You still have your center section in it, of course. You would not have these brackets on it. All you would need to do is we would send this bolt-on bracket. These particular ears here are these ears. You would take the top 3 bolts off of your carrier. This would bolt over the nuts. You put the nuts back on. Your gear would be sticking out here, of course. It would still have the gear in it. It just makes this a bolt on. That came welded on. We weld them on when we can, but you can put them on. And of course these things on the end, I've just got built up on stands to hold it. Okay, the brackets we're talking about are your U-joint brackets, your coilover brackets. They'll go right around the existing pad where your leaf springs were. That's your factory mounting pad. You'll just take your leaf springs off, throw those away, leave these pads exactly where they were. All right, now I'm going to install these with the bracketry. This is where the coilover ear mounts. It's going to go inward toward the pumpkin. Driver's side will be in, passenger side will be pointing in, because the coilover shock will run from this point upward. Okay, we're going to install those now. And when we install them, I'm going to install these, and I'm going to leave the U-bolt nuts just finger tight. I'm just going to have it finger tight, so when I can put my lower control arms in, I'll have room to wiggle it around and center it all up. Then I'll tighten it all up together. All right, let's put these on, and then we'll put the housing under the car. Okay, we've got our rear end housing sitting back under the car with our brackets for our coilovers bolted to it. They're just finger tight. We just left our U-bolt nuts finger tight to where we can get our lower links. Now we're ready to put our lower links on. What we're going to do, we're going to take these links and attach one from here to here on the right side, here to here on the left side. We'll put them in, put the bolts in, and then we'll go up top, and then we'll do the 2 up top. Let's do that. Okay, we have a front eye bolt in. Now this eye bolt does not have a nut on the back side that you have to put in place. It has a nut on it, but the nut is already welded down in here. So all you'll need to do is a 1/2 inch 13 coarse thread bolt with the 1/2 inch lock washer under it. All right, now what we're gonna do, we're gonna pick the bar up. We're gonna slide the housing back and put these in place. Okay, as you can see, we've got the lower links installed on the housing and in the front perch pocket. The lower's done. The only thing left to do now is attach our adjuster bars. It's just a matter of slipping them in place. That's what sets our pinion angle, guys. We'll put those in place now, and the only thing we'll do after that will be to install the coilovers on the back side of the housing up to our bar. Okay, I have our upper adjuster bars installed. I've got them tightened down. This is what we use to set our pinion angle, guys. This is right and left-handed rod ends. You'll break the jam nut loose on both ends. One turns left, one turns right, and then you turn it in the center. And that'll pull the top of your housing in or out depending on your pinion angle. What we've got now, we've got this car set up with the rocker panels running at 0. With the rocker panels at 0, you'll want this rear end housing tilted 3 to 4 degrees. I put an inclinometer on the bottom of the housing and tilted up 3 to 4 degrees. We'll show you how to do that whenever we put the rear end housing together, but right now, we just want you to know how to put it in. 10-4. Okay, since we got the upper adjuster bars in, all that left to do was put the coilovers on. That's just a matter of bolting them up. We put them in place. I started with the middle hole, up top, hole in the bottom, straight forward. Put your nuts on it, tighten them up. That's all there is to it as far as putting the coilovers, guys. All that's gonna leave now was the sway bar. We'll get the sway bar bolted in, we'll be finished. We'll move on to that procedure. Okay, we're ready to now start installing our rear sway bar. This will be the final part of the installation. As you can see, I have the sway bar unpackaged. You'll have your 2 end links, your 2 bushings, your bolts, nuts, and washers. Okay, what we're going to do, these bushings come out of these brackets. The bushings are split. They have a split right down the center. You'll take and open these splits. You'll slide each bushing on the bar in its respective position. One on the passenger side, one on the driver's side. You put that on, we'll put the brackets back over them. Once it's on, and then we'll bolt it up to our brackets, which is under the car. Then we'll put our end links on, and that's all there is to it. Now I'm gonna bolt it up under the car, and then I'll show you what it looks like bolted under it when it's finished. Now when you get this bar and unpackage it, with these bushings, I'll have some grease in a small package, black package. Be sure and grease the inside of these bushings. Put a light film of grease here. It's a special grease we see with these things. Works great. Okay, let's do the installation, and then we'll show you what it looks like finished. Okay, here's the sway bar after the installation. We now have it in place. As you can see, we bolted it to the frame rail brackets, back down to the rear end housing, through the bar. That's all there is to it, guys. Do not squeeze these bushings out. All you want is about 1/4 of an inch thread coming through the top of the bolt. You just want a little tension on these bushings. You don't want to mash these bushings flat. That's all you need there. But that's it for the installation of the RC114 rear coilover system in a 1962 through 1965 Ford Falcon. That is it installed completely. The last thing we do when we put a car together using one of these rear is when we get the car completely finished, before we get the car ready to drive on the road, of course, the last thing we'll do will be take it to the front end shop. After the front end's aligned, the car should be finished at that point. But before we do that, we get the car set up at the angle we want to set, then we'll come back and we'll set our pinion angle, which is what we done here, which is done with these bars up top. You bust the jam nuts loose, you turn your adjuster bars left or right, which pivots the housing in or out, which changes the pinion angle. Right now we have this car set up with the rocker panels level, the car setting level. That means our engine stands that we put on the cross member are set at 4 degrees, so we will set with this 4-link, and it is just your discretion, but we set ours at 4 degrees. What we do is we set the pinion angle, the pinion, we want the plane of the pinion to run uphill at the same plane that the transmission output shaft runs downhill. It'll be running downhill at 4 degrees due to the inclination in our engine stands. It'll be running 4 degrees downhill to this, which it puts this 4 degrees uphill. What we're saying is we want to run it on the same plane. We do not want one down and one up. We want this one this way and the other one this way. And that's all there is to it, guys. Just read the directions, follow your tape measure, follow the instructions, look at this DVD, and if I hadn't confused you enough, just give me a call and I'll do my best to confuse you all I can. That's it, guys. Have fun.